So, good Wednesday morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coffee with Craig show. It's actually a special edition of the Coffee with Craig show. I'm here with Preston Smith from Corporate Due Diligence and Investigations, CDDI, and he's launching the this month's cheat sheet and crime report. Preston, welcome again to the Coffee with Craig show.
Yeah, good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, well, cheat sheet's out. We put it out once a month. This cheat sheet, there's, I joke, there's always lots of nasty things in it. But we try to keep it relevant. Oh, this is what it looks like. It's kind of fat. But this month really is interesting because it kind of actually, the way it worked out, it sort of encompasses all the things that are kind of problematic in our region, maybe not just in our region, actually.
So it is a big addition.
It is. Well, I mean, it just kind of worked out that way because we've got issues with repression against journalists, including jailing, including murder, actually in a couple of countries. We have issues with some of the real estate guys may get frustrated with these types of things when you see real corruption in, say, municipal areas like what we have in Brno with the Stoka affair. Where you had a whole political class. It's not limited to one party, and this affair is just going wider and wider, and it's showing how so many tenders were rigged when it came down to sorting out city buildings. And I'm sure guys in real estate get frustrated when they run into a situation where they can't get something done. They don't know why.
Well, a lot of the big ones just don't do anything with the city.
Well,
I mean, build property.
But you have to get permissions.
Yeah, sure.
Though. And so then you've got, well, in Slovakia, you had this, basically this comes out of the guerrilla affair and then the murder of the journalist Jan Kuciak, but now the prosecutors that they've been arresting, prosecutors, judges, police, the former police chief actually committed suicide there after he was put in jail. And it kind of shows some of the inherent corruption just in the region. Now, I'm not trying to pick on one country because I kind of pick on every country, to tell you the truth.
Let's see, we have Navalny on the front cover.
Yeah, Navalny's on the front.
Good,
yeah, so he's there. I hope nothing happens to me now. But that's also a good example. Look what we have in Russia. We have Navalny. That's pretty well known. Convicted on a technicality in the sense that he was poisoned. Now we can say, okay, who poisoned him? A lot of us will guess who. But he went to get treated and he couldn't check in for parole.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And then you have a situation similar in Belarus where we had not only something like 40 journalists basically rounded up, a couple of young women, they're not even 30 years old yet, have been sentenced to 2.5 years in prison there.
Right.
For covering. So this, what we're seeing across the region, and it's easy to pick on Russia and Belarus for these very blatant issues. But if you take a look at, for example, in Poland, we still have criminal libel on the books. You can still go to jail for something that you write. When you see in Bulgaria, actually Bulgaria could be a positive because now we've seen...
it might be going there soon.
Well, we have a couple of media... Well, we have a change in media there in the sense that United Group is investing. They bought a bunch of the media that belonged to some of the oligarchs. Actually, Petr Kellner from PPF, his media group has moved in and bought some of the other ones. And some people, is that going to be a good thing or not? But we're going to have maybe a change up in Bulgaria when it comes to journalism and the news, which may make things a little bit more objective. But if you just go through the different countries, and it's not even limited to just Central Europe. If we take a look at trivial libel cases in the West, we take a look at some of the things that are going on right now in Ukraine, where in that case, Russia is very upset because Medvedchuk, who was a media owner, well, he's basically seen all of his media shut down for because they've been pumping out Russian propaganda. Well, okay. But there has to be kind of a sensibility here where people are allowed to speak, not foment violence, but allowed to have your opinion on both sides, right?
Right.
And this is one of the things that the region has been struggling with for a long time. In Poland, also this media law that now they're going to, tax all the private media. They're rethinking that. But there are a number of things that we touch on in this cheat sheet, and we get into some of the details and some of the ironies. I don't know if there's, it's easy to pick on one side being the bad guy and the other side the good guy. Well, there's a lot of
right.
It's pretty mixed up when it gets into that. And then, of course, we have the standard corruption and violence and that kind of stuff that we also highlight. So
well,
it's a good issue.
I guess not just the region for blocking free speech as well. So,
no, it's not. It's not. And this is the thing, regardless of where you are in the world, if you have a party, and I don't want to get into like the Republicans versus the Democrats, or even in Ukraine right now, you do have part of the population that is pro-Russian, and then you have the Ukrainian. You get into which side is right. Well, in my opinion, any side has the right to voice their opinion, as long as they are not trying to create violence. If they're not calling people to violence, then you have a different.
So what other goodies do we have in here? I see a whole list on that.
Oh, well, we have, okay, I would say, if you really want to take a look at something that is troubling, that is the issue in Slovakia that we touched on. This goes back to the guerrilla affair, where you had the guerrilla affair were tapes that were, we've had a lot of tape scandals that have popped up in the whole region, not just in Slovakia, but in Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, in Poland, where people were secretly taping, a lot of times possibly the secret services, these tapes came out. But if you go back in time in Slovakia to the guerrilla affair, where you saw basically what looked like collusion between the secret services, oligarchs, people in the government, and over time, this began to be exposed. And one of the young guys that exposed a lot, as we know, Jan Kuciak and his girlfriend, they were both murdered. This brought down the Robert Fico government. Well, now we have kind of a new party came in, and prosecutors, and they have been going after the powers that were. Okay, and there's always a danger: is this a purge or not? Okay, are they just trying to punish everybody? On the flip side, there was a lot going on that was pretty evil for a long time, and then you also had the Italian mafia element that got in there. And so that is something that actually is an extremely interesting case. I tangentially knew some of the people that were involved in that down there, and were working on it for years, so it's kind of close to my heart, I guess.
Right, great.
But apart from that, then you have the situation in Ukraine, the kind of push-pull between the U.S. and Russia. Same type of thing in Bulgaria with the Belin nuclear project. I mean, we tend to kind of still look at now. It's nice to look at Central Europe, say things have developed, we move forward. For sure, we're not anything like what we were in the 1990s, but the Cold War is on, and it's just getting colder.
Still brutal.
And really, when you get into the bits and pieces of it, pretty amazing what's going on.
So what should investors, let's say, if there's one or two things you could say in a minute or two to watch out for coming into Central Europe or investing in Central Europe? 1 minute. And what are, like, especially if they count flying in and out all the time?
The first thing, what you really have to do is vet. And you have to remember that if you show up in a country, I don't care what country in the world, and you're not a native speaker, you don't know the law, maybe you've got money, maybe you got good ideas, but the first people that come to you are the people that are going to try to take advantage of it.
Yeah. And they always speak perfect English.
They do.
Yeah,
they
they're
do.
Great.
And so you need to vet them. And when I say vet them, you need to find out, who are these people? How are they connected? What was their past? What did their companies do? Have they been in trouble? Especially for U.S. companies that can wind up in an FCPA, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, swamp, because of you buy a company, you basically are liable for what they did in the past if you didn't check them out. So that's the real thing. And then you need to take a look at what is the political nature in that company. How are the laws developing? You need to make sure when you come in that you know what's happening on the ground. Because if you don't, you're going to wind up in the cheat sheet.
Yeah, no. Well, no one wants to be on the front cover of that, probably. Well, Navalny's probably very happy to be on. Well, Preston, very good to have you on the show again. And if anyone wants the cheat sheet, it'll also be in the texts that are in the comments of how to get it and how to get in touch with Preston and get a copy of it. Also, Preston, I'm going to give you a Coffee with Craig mug as a present for being on the show. You were on before, but we didn't have them ready, so
you owe me more mugs.
So the coffee.
Have a whole collection.
Yeah, that's right. So the coffee is always better in the Coffee with Craig mug for sure. So everyone, enjoy the rest of the day. Have a great evening, and read the cheat sheet. Very interesting reading. And thank you for joining us.